is that of education. With me this afternoon, I have very special guests, the Moko family and Madaba family. Thank you very much for joining us to share with us this message, not only of education, but Adventist education. And I'm saying Adventist education because it's different from the regular education that we know. But particularly today, we want to discuss this component of education that has been forgotten by many people. And but to thank God for COVID, it has just reminded us once again that there is this thing called homeschooling. And I want to think maybe someone is saying, what kind of an animal is homeschooling now? Is this something that the Moko family just came up with during COVID, or the Madaba family just decided to redesign education? But we'll hear what this is all about. In the book Education, Ellen White speaks about this concept of true education, and simply stated, she defines education in three ways, and that is the head, the hand, and the heart. And this is basically what we're going to be talking about this afternoon. So thank you very much. Sit back, relax, as we discuss this very, very, very important subject today. Right from the beginning, I want to pick up, you Memoko. Just please tell us briefly about the history and definition of what true education is, so that we can truly understand what is this thing that we call true education.
Thank you, Pastor, for the opportunity. And I think the place where we should start at, it's at the Garden of Eden, where God came to Adam and Eve and gave them true education. And he came and gave them true education. He was their instructor. And I think that was a good opportunity for them to learn things from nature, from the very same person who created them, the very same person who spoke and things happened. And he did not just put them in the garden, but he also thought that it would be important for them to learn. And that's why he even offered to come and be their instructor. And in that kind of education, he did not just concentrate on their mental part, but he also thought that they should also get physical as they are learning.
Okay.
And we see the importance of physical work there, and unfortunately, this kind of education, after sin, everything was mud and everything was distracted, and God had to come up with a plan. And during the time of the children of Israel, we see him still seeing the importance of influencing their education. And he told the children of Israel what kind of education he wanted them to have. He instructed them that the parents should be the ones to teach the children, and education to be connected with God's nature still. He wanted them to know the promises of God, what God has done for them when they were in the wilderness, especially when they were building the sanctuary. We know that they did not have the skill, they did not have an idea of what they were going to do, but God came as their instructor and gave them instruction of what to do. And that's when they used their hands for education in that part. God taught them to use their hands, and he did not just teach them to use their hands, he also wanted them to be connected with him spiritually. And as the years went by, we realized that human race, man, was becoming more and more perverted. And when at the time of the prophets, now God thought to tell Samuel that he should start the schools of
Yes. Are you done, ma'am?
God, then thought of the schools of the prophets and instructed Samuel to open the schools and gave him a system to follow. We know that the kids were taught skills where they learn how to till the land, and they also learn mechanical work. And we know that during the time of Israel, every Jewish child was required to know Okay, we know that every Jewish child was required to learn some sort of a skill, and it was required that they should learn to work with their hands and earn a living, even though they were going to learn to be doctors and teachers, but still it was a requirement. It was actually a taboo if you were a Jewish child and you did not know how to build or how to till the soil. Of God, the sacred history, sacred music, and sacred poetry. And these schools were successful, and it was one of the things that brought the children of Israel back to God. We then come to the New Testament, and we see Jesus. Let's take the example of Jesus. We know that there were the schools of the synagogue, but Jesus' parents chose to teach him at home. They taught him the prophets, and the father taught him in the carpenter shop. And we see that thing of the child knowing how to use their hands continuing in Jesus' education, in the education that Jesus received. And in the community, they saw Jesus as someone who was, he went out there, he was called the master teacher. And we see him choosing the 12 disciples and instructing them. And when we read in the Spirit of Prophecy, it tells us that there was never a teacher like Jesus. And I think it was a very good opportunity for the disciples when they were the students to Jesus, because he was one teacher who would show you by example. Whatever that he taught you, you would see it in him. He used less words, but more action. Nature was also part of his education. He used illustrations from nature. And we know that the best way to teach a child or anyone is in using illustrations. And Jesus gave us that example to follow. And Jesus taught things that developed character. You will not meet Jesus and stay the same. Whatever that he taught you, it brought change into your life. And now I move to, there are many other examples in the New Testament. We look at Timothy, that he was taught by his mother and his grandmother, and the influence was very great. He became a great man. But let's look at where we are now, the remnant people. There have been so many things that have happened to the church, to God's people, and even the powers of evil, the forces of evil are so great. There are so many things in our lives that are just removing us from God, the business of life, and the responsibilities that we have that are just burdening us, and we kind of forget the importance of education, the education of our children. But God gave us an education system. When we read the book Education, we even have a book, Education, that we can always refer to and go back to and find out what God is saying about our education. When we read the very first statement that opens the book, I'll ask Mala to read it for us, then I'll just elaborate on that.
All right. I'll read from page 13 of the book Education. All right, it says here, the third line on the first paragraph says, true education means more than the pursuit of a certain course of study. It means more than a preparation for the life that now is. It has to do with the whole being and with the whole period of existence possible to man. It is harmonious development of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual powers. It prepares the student for the joy of service in this world and for the high
Statement starts with the word true. And if you look at the word true, it has different meanings. It's something that is genuine, something that is real, and something that is authentic. So the education that we are required to give to our children here, it should be something genuine. And we see that Jesus, the kind of education he gave to his disciples, it was genuine, it was true, and it was real. He used real life issues to address his students. And it is an education that has to prepare us for this life. It's an education that has to prepare us for the future life. And it deals with the whole being. And it does not just the whole.
We have experiencing some breakages.
Okay. It's not.
Are we live now?
Yes, you can continue.
Okay. Our thing is muted though.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just saying the education, the statement that we just read is telling us that the education that we are to give to our children is the education that will prepare them for life here on earth and for the future life. And it has to deal with the whole period of man. It does not just cover the first 18 years of your life. Even after 18 years, we still learn. Actually, this kind of education, it also includes us as parents, because it develops the physical part, which is the hand, and we ought to teach our children to use their hands, to work with their hands, to use their talents, and to help them to be creative people so that they can use that to earn a living in their life. They should not depend on the certificates that they will get after matriculating or after getting their degrees. It covers the spiritual powers, which is the heart. Where will we go if our hearts are not right with God? And it's not just about God, it's about serving humanity. It's about controlling our emotions. It's about being able to share ourselves and whatever that we have worked for with our hands. And it's also about the mental powers. We are to develop our children. We need to teach our children to be thinkers, to be independent thinkers, to learn for themselves and to be competent when they go out there in life. They should not rely on the other person's ideas and think that I will go and work where so that I can earn a salary. That's the kind of education that God wanted us to have, the education that will develop our character. And character is the only gift, the only thing that we are going to take from this life to the life to come. I think that's what I have prepared to share with you this morning. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think at the end there, you said something that is mouthful, and that is character is the only thing that we will take to heaven. I think it's the book Christ Object Lesson, page 69, where Ellen White says, when the character of Christ is reproduced amongst men, then Jesus will come. So this education we are learning that is meant not only to certificate us, and you're saying something very important also that I picked up, and that is it helps us to be able to work for ourselves. I mean, this world today, South Africa is crying of lack of jobs. And many people are finding themselves without jobs simply because they went to school, but they were not taught how to use their hands. So, wow, this is very beautiful. But I'm just wondering, though, as to how does this become practical in this day in time? So maybe let me talk to Mrs. Madaba about the practicality of this home education, because someone may be listening and says, wow, this sounds good, but I was never trained for it. And so how is this done at home? Mrs. Madaba.
Okay, thank you, Pastor, for the opportunity. This afternoon, I'll be focusing on the practicality of a homeschool environment. Sister Pinky has already laid a foundation of homeschool ideals. Yes. So my goal this afternoon is to approach those ideals into a more practical way. Allow me to take you through Madaba's residence, where I'm going to share with you my homeschool journey. That is my experiences and challenges that I had. The experience that I had was fear. I had fears.
Yeah.
Fears such as, will I reach the standard that is set in a school environment? will my children be at par with the kids that are taught in a school environment?
Yeah.
I have fears, Mfundisi, fears such as my kids the kind of people who can be homeschooled? Because according to me, I thought that homeschool was for a particular kind of children.
Yeah.
Children who are already showing independence in their way of doing things. Little did I realize that it's in the water where we learn to swim.
Amen.
Throwing them into the pool of homeschooling environment brought independence with it. According to my husband, we could have started homeschooling our children when my firstborn was still in grade RR.
Yes,
but because I entertained those fears, we started late.
Yeah.
We started when my firstborn was in grade 9. And as for my secondborn, we became consistent when she was in grade 5. From grade 2 to 4, we were inconsistent.
Yes.
So as a mother and as a teacher of my children in a homeschool environment, I can boldly say, Mfundisi, that I've seen both worlds.
Yes.
The school environment and the home environment. In a typical school environment, children are treated alike in that the same teaching method is used for each child. Whereas with homeschool, it's a school that is specially designed for your child. As a parent, no one knows your child better than you do.
Yes.
You know their weaknesses, their strengths, their challenges, their fears, and also their learning styles. Each child is gifted differently and is different from another. So I can say that a homeschool environment, the kids, what I like about homeschool environment is that the kids command the teaching methods.
Okay.
In my case, one child is both visual and auditory, meaning that she learns best through seeing and hearing, while the other one is both visual and kinesthetic learner, meaning that she learns best through seeing and being physically involved. Now, here is the advantage. Using the right teaching method makes all the difference when it comes to your child understanding and remembering the material. I'm going to focus on homeschool under the following 4 aspects of education, namely spiritual, social, mental or academic performance, and physical aspects. Let me start with the spiritual aspect. Our homeschool program starts at 4 a.m. Where my kids, no sleeping, Mfundisi.
Okay.
Where my kids have their 1 hour personal devotion.
Okay.
That's where they learn their Bible doctrines. The results are seen in their conducting of Bible studies with non-Adventists and the interest thereof. One of them, during this lockdown, has created a WhatsApp group with the aim of evangelizing to her non-Adventist friends. So we can see that indeed this 1 hour personal devotion is helping them. And The social aspect, I can say that we interact well with our children as a family, and the outcome of that is seen in their interaction with others outside our family circle. They are both comfortable to interact with their peers and with the adults without any problem. Coming to academic or mental performance, as I said earlier on, homeschool encourages independence. As one homeschool child once said, I am a teacher's teacher, meaning that I don't depend on the educator. I dig for my own information. Charlotte Mason is the author of the original homeschool series, once said, I quote, "The child who applies his or her mind and digs for information becomes the owner of that information. The discovered facts or ideas move from information to knowledge. And that knowledge, that child becomes the owner of that knowledge. Now, because knowledge is power, the child who is knowledgeable will certainly show power in dealing with it. The physical aspect, my children have developed interests in cooking, baking, gardening, and this came spontaneously without my intervention. One of them has gone industrious. She's selling her own muesli, granola, the one that we are using in the morning.
Yes.
She's making her own granola and she's selling that. So this testifies that homeschool gives an opportunity to develop talents. Yes, I also had challenges. Choosing a curriculum was a bit challenging. We kept on changing from one curriculum to another. So the best advice that I can give is that choose the best curriculum that is best for your child.
Yes.
At foundation phase, you can make your own curriculum by putting different curricula together according to your child's needs. However, at high school, you may need to focus on one. In summary, I would like to say homeschool is not defined to a classroom setup. It is incorporated into daily life. You can homeschool your child in your car while driving. You can homeschool while taking nature walk. You can homeschool while working in the garden. The list is endless. So above all, God blesses his instructions, and homeschool is one of them. Thank you, Mfundisi.
Wow, powerful stuff, powerful stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you spoke about the issue of mixing curricula. And because someone may say, how do I do that? Maybe that's something we must pick up at some point to say, these are the strategies that you could use to take this part of the curriculum here, that part there, and so on and so on. So I want to say to our viewers, though, we will not be able to cover everything today, but we are planning to have another weekend meeting where all these things will be done in pieces so that you know the whole works of how this thing work. But Mrs. Madaba, I hear what you are saying, but I want to hear from the learners themselves, because you may be advertising yourself here. So let me let me hear from the learners themselves here as to what has been their experience. What is it that they enjoyed, if any, during this time? I'm not sure where do I start. Maybe let me start with your daughter, Fano. Please tell me, what is your experience as your teacher? Please unmute yourself. Yes. Go ahead.
I am a 7th year homeschooler, and in these 7 years, I have learned how to be independent and not always dependent on my parents for help. It has helped me to be spiritually elevated and to be more concerned about my salvation. I have plenty of time in studying the Bible and spreading the gospel and leaning on prayer. Another thing that it has helped me is being creative. Reason being, I have more time in focusing on what I love, like music, and I can share my music with others. Lastly, is that I have gained skills like cooking, baking, and gardening. And in conclusion, I am thankful for my homeschooling journey because I consider it a blessing.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? So what grade are you this year?
Grade 9.
Grade 9. So if life had a clock was reversed, would you do it again?
Yes, I would homeschool again.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me come to the Moko man. Get to the experience also. What has been your experience so far?
All right, as for me, my experience was a very good experience because during my time of homeschooling, I've learned how to be independent and how to develop all three faculties: the heart, the mind, and also the spiritual. Because in ordinary schools, you don't have that kind of opportunity to be spiritually grounded, yet also mentally, you are mentally grounded and even physically. So just an example of how on a daily basis, we develop all these three sections. We have our personal devotions in the mornings, and from our personal devotions, then we go to do some physical work on the farm because we live on a farm. And now with that physical labor, after doing that physical labor, that is when we go and do our schoolwork. Now in that way, in a day, we've covered all three of those faculties. And, just some of the things that parents neglect to develop in children who are not homeschooled is the skills that they will be able to use in the later life. Because what they do is that they only make them to know book knowledge, but not practical things that will help them when they are later in life and have their own work and all that. So that's mostly what I learned from this homeschooling experience.
Wow. Thank you very much. I wanted to go back to Precious. I hope she's still there. And just hear her side of the story now. Precious, what has been your experience with homeschooling? What is your impression? You can unmute yourself.
May you please repeat the question?
I was saying, what has been your impression with homeschooling now that you are at tertiary level? What is your experience?
Oh, I think maybe we have the names confused. I'm the one who's supposed to be talking now. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for this opportunity. For me, I'll be speaking about my transition from homeschool environment to university. As my mother mentioned before, I started homeschooling when I was in grade 9. So for some students who are homeschooled, the thought of transitioning from homeschool to university might evoke some fear. I know this because that is exactly what happened to me. I did not know what to expect, but little did I know that homeschooling had thoroughly prepared me for university life. One of the known advantages that have been mentioned already is that homeschool encourages independence. And I think that most university students can agree that independence is one of the most needed traits if you want to survive university life. Yeah. And now that I'm in my second year, I realized that my anxiousness about the transition was unnecessary, because when I got to university, I was able to adjust very well in terms of managing my time, having control over my freedom, and being able to interact with different people. I was able to do all of these because homeschooling had prepared me for just that. In fact, I wouldn't say that the transition was overwhelming, because the only major difference between homeschool and university was that I was studying away from the comfort of my home. However, I could say that the major challenge which I faced was keeping up with the load work. At home, you get to control the amount of work you do per day. But at university, if you're not careful, the workload tends to control you. But it did not take me a lot of time to get the hang of things. And I believe that the new challenges that I was facing as a homeschool student were not very much different from the challenges that students from traditional schools were facing, because I think that the workload of high school and university, they are very much different. So just like myself, students from traditional high school they had to get accustomed to the university workload and also studying away from home. And in conclusion, I should say that I give all the credit to God, because I should admit that homeschool has increased my faith in God, and it has made me closer to Him than I was before. Wow. And why do I say this? It's because as a high school student who had no teachers for all my subjects, I had to depend on God more than ever before, because God was my teacher. When I was failing to understand a concept in math or chemistry, it's either I would pray about it or fast about it. And because of that, it has increased my faith in God. And what I like is that this faith is not something that I could only use in homeschool. It's something that I carried with me into my university life. When I got to university and I was facing these new challenges, I remembered that God was with me in my homeschooling years, so He would be with me in my university life. So I could say that the transition from homeschool to university life is basically a leap of faith. You just have to trust in God that He will guide you through your academic life. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. Much appreciated. So I guess some of these fears are just unnecessary.
Yes.
Yeah, one writer says, one thing that you need to fear the most in life is fear itself. So sometimes we lose things that we could be blessed with simply because we feared. Now, Elder Moko, let me come back to you. How many homeschooling methods do we have out there?
Thank you, Pastor. Generally, there are close to 10 methods that are known, but there are 3 main methods that are generally used. Those methods, the number one is called unschooling. The second one is natural learning. And the third one is what we call the unit studies, where you study units.
Yes.
The unschooling method, usually it's an informal way of learning. They don't use textbooks and stuff like that. They usually let life experiences be the moment of learning. So in other words, the learner learns what they want to learn, when they want to learn it, and how they want to learn it. So there is no structured program for the unschooling. The other one that is called natural learning, they are closely related with unschooling. Yes. But with natural learning is that the parents watch the interest of the learner, okay, and pursue and maximize on that interest and start to teach the child on that one. But they also don't use textbooks. But the one that is mainly used by homeschoolers, it's called the unit studies, which is similar to what the normal schools do use. In other words, you'll follow certain subject and study certain topics to teach your child. However, deciding which method to use and how to use it best, Mrs. Madaba, earlier in her experience of how practically she does, she alluded to quite a few things. Maybe I should just summarize them to say there are 4 learning styles. How the children learn. Other children, they are visual, others are auditory, others are, they learn by reading and writing, others they learn by working with their hands, kinesthetic learners. So for you to be able to use those methods properly, you first need to determine how does your child learn. And remember also that, like Ms. Madaba already alluded that, one child could be visual and auditory. So it's just like temperaments. You can't say I'm 100% this type of a temperament, but the child learn using different methods. So you need to study so that you can be able to use look, there are 10 types methods, but the main 3 ones that are normally used.
Okay. Yes. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, one of the challenges, well, I guess it's fear to get started with homeschooling, Pastor Madaba. Now, my question to you is it expensive to go the homeschooling route?
Thank you for the opportunity. It depends entirely upon how you go about it. For example, families can spend literally thousands of rands enrolling their kids in expensive programs, or can spend close to nothing by using a local library and a lot of creativity. It also depends upon your priorities for homeschooling and the type of education you want your child to have. I can basically say expensive is a relative word to Fundisi. Yes. Because homeschooling can cost you as much or as little as you want it to be. You do not need to be extravagant. You buy only the things that you know that you are going to use. So you know, I cannot say much on this Mfundisi. Brother Moko and myself really can admit that we are foreigners in this. The mother is the best teacher, so we are just supporting them.
All right, that's good. So in other words, there is really no excuse that one can advance to say, I don't have money. If you are creative and you are able to use the local resources, such as the local library, it can happen.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, but one of the challenges I have had people advance against homeschooling. Maybe let me talk to Junior now. One of the challenges that people advance is that, look, yeah, okay, fair enough. You guys get up early, you go to the farm, you do this, you do that. But here is the challenge though. You are just the only one, or with your sibling. And how in the world, in that kind of environment, you can learn to be a critical thinker when you are just with your sibling and your parent?
Thank you for the question and for the opportunity. Being a critical thinker does not mainly depend on your environment, but it depends mainly on the literature that you read. And reading the Bible is one of those literature that we have been given by God that is disposable to all. And the Bible is one book that we can read and engage with others about its content and the subjects that are therein. The home environment is also one place where we can engage with our peers and with our parents regarding the matters that are in the Bible. So the Bible is one of those resources that have been given to us to be able to use in critical thinking.
So would you say your experience afforded you the opportunity to be a critical thinker now, where you are able to deal with the challenges, academically otherwise, that come your way?
Yes. The foundation that was laid in the homeschool environment was one that was able to afford me with the opportunity to be able to think critically and to be able to engage with others in matters, be it academic or when it comes to subjects of the Bible and issues that are in our environment.
So what school level are you?
I am currently doing my third year in university. I am doing public health, and yes, that's my major.
Okay. So you would say homeschooling prepared you for what you are doing?
Yes, it does prepare you for the environment that you will be faced with as you go out to learn and further your studies.
Mamoko, I want to come back to you. Here is someone who says, look, I hear you, I'm excited about this. I may have some of my fears have disappeared now, but here is the issue now. I've got 2 children in different grades. How in the world am I going to do this? Because I'm not even certified.
I think the promise that Jesus gave us, that he will give us power, he will give us the comforter, it will clearly help us. The Holy Spirit will help us and give us wisdom on how to do that. But I think planning your day and involving your children, involving everyone in learning, those are the things that can help you. If you plan your day, say, okay, from this time to this time, I'm working with A child, and from this time and this to this time, I'm working with B child. And there are times then when you have to involve everyone. There are times when they will have to work independently. There are times when you maybe share the times that, okay, you do maths, that one does English, so that you can be able to juggle your day.
Yes.
And lots of prayer also, that the Lord should help you, that everything should go according to plan. It's just about committing your day to the Lord and planning. Thank you.
Okay, good. So in other words, the key word here is order.
Yes.
You know, Ellen White says, the first law of heaven is order. So if you are not orderly in this life, you can forget the life up there. Now, maybe let me come back to you, Mrs. Madaba. What are the just common difficulties when it comes to homeschooling?
I think let me tackle that, Mfundisi.
Okay.
The difficulties that the homeschoolers or the homeschooling parents are experiencing, it's discipline. You know,
yes.
you find that you are unable to follow a strict program because there's nothing set for you already there. You try this, especially even with curriculum. You will try this curriculum, the next time, I mean, you don't find it working, and then the next time you try the other one. So discipline and choosing curriculum, those are some of the difficulties that we experience in homeschooling. And sometimes you even get worried to say, am I giving enough to my children? But I just want to give ourselves hope, those who are homeschooling.
Yes.
You know, my wife always quotes this verse for our 3-year-old, Philippians 4 verse 6. When our 3-year-old is experiencing a problem, she will then say, what does Philippians 4 verse 6 say? And the child would say, don't worry about anything,
yes,
but pray about everything.
Amen.
You know, you just feel that, actually, Mrs. Moko mentioned it very well, to say, I mean, with God, I'm now putting more words now, that if God be for us, who can be against us? Wonderful. So I don't want to paint the difficulties of homeschooling to be, to make the devil happy. The devil is a defeated foe. So we need to focus on the sunny side of life.
Wonderful, wonderful. I guess one of the key lessons, fruits of homeschooling, as I listen to you and the rest of you, is that you learn how to depend on the Lord every day.
Oh yeah.
Now, Mamoko, talk to me about the extramural activities.
Yes, homeschooling children do extramural activities. Oh. And yes, they do play tennis, they do, especially music. They love singing, they love playing instruments. And my advice to parents is that when you venture into those, look for people with same beliefs so that whatever that you teach at home should not be compromised when they go out there. So you, like with us, we are blessed to have a pastor who is taking kids from the community and he's offering them tennis lessons. And kids love it and they enjoy, and the environment also is good. And the other thing is sharing skills. If you know how to do something, if you are a good cook, if you know how to bake, you can organize other homeschoolers, even other children, so that they can see that homeschooling is something that is enjoyable. And organize a cooking class, a knitting class, a sewing class. I think that will even take homeschooling even further. So sharing skills and looking for people with same beliefs. And yes, we do extramural activities.
Yeah. Okay. I was just worried about this one, that you guys only read Bible there and that's it, no extramural activities.
We do now, play.
Let me come back to you, Madam. Now, here is a parent who says, look, I like to do this. I want to do something like this. But here's the problem. I didn't attend teacher training college. I don't know what's the teacher training college in Limpopo. I didn't attend whatever teacher training college, wherever. So I would love to do this, but unfortunately I can't because I'm not certificated to do this job. What do you say to that person?
Okay, Mfundisi. The Constitution caters for parents to teach their children. So being a parent of the child is the only qualification that you need. That is why you cannot homeschool someone else's child unless you have adopted that child legally. So you only need to be a parent to homeschool your child. The Constitution allows you to do that.
Okay. And of course, as we go forward with this drive of homeschooling, we will empower parents who are interested in doing homeschooling. So please stay with us, keep your ear on the ground. We will make further announcements about when next is our weekend meeting, where we'll have plenty of time to discuss and empower everybody as to how can you go about and be a good homeschooling parent. Time is our enemy today, but I won't close this meeting without without asking Promise this question of that some people feel that, look, as good as homeschooling may be, one of the biggest problems with homeschooling is that it produces antisocial kids. So would you say that homeschooling problem also produces antisocial kids, learners?
Okay, firstly, we should understand what it means to be antisocial. I think that many of us have the wrong perspective about what it means to be antisocial, because I know that I had that wrong perspective. I am a shy or reserved person, and because of that, I automatically thought that I was antisocial. So to understand what it means to be antisocial, we first need to understand what it means to be social. Being social simply means how well you can interact with people. It does not necessarily mean if you can keep a conversation going. I strongly believe that a child's first lessons are found in the Bible and then practiced at home. It's like the Bible is the textbook, and then the home is the lab where the theory is being practiced. So in this case, a child's first lessons about being social should be found in the Bible. And there are many verses where Christ and his disciples taught us how to interact with each other. For example, the Bible tells us that we should not merely look out for our own personal interests, but we should also look out for the interests of others. It tells us to esteem others above ourselves, and it tells us to be kind and courteous. And when my family and I were reading Adventist Home, we learned that we can learn how to be courteous by starting at home. When we are courteous to each other, automatically we'll be able to be courteous to other people. So that is the definition of being social. If you can show kindness to people, if you can look out for their interests, that is being social. You don't have to be a talkative person in order for you to be considered as a social person. So being antisocial would just mean the opposite of that. If I cannot treat other people with kindness, if I cannot show love, then that is considered as being antisocial. And I remember when I was making the transition from high school to homeschool, one of my former teachers asked me, he said to me that, well, you're going to lose all those social skills. You'll be isolated at home. Who are you going to talk to? And who are you going to be social with? So when I thought about his question, he was implying that the only environment to learn social skills is at school. Yeah. And again, he was suggesting that I can learn all the social skills by merely having interactions with my peers. Because at high school, you don't have different kinds of peers. You just interact with those of your peers. But then we should remember that during homeschool, you are not isolated. It does not mean that you are denied social interactions with other people. For example, there's church to attend every Sabbath. At church, that's where you can learn social skills. In fact, I think that at church is the best place to learn social skills because you are able to interact with different kinds of people, those who are your peers and those who are not your peers. So homeschooling does not produce antisocial children.
Yes. What are your thoughts there, Junior? Are you a product of homeschooling that is antisocial?
I think Promise did justice to explaining to us what social and antisocial, what the differences are. And no, I'm not a product of an antisocial school society. But the church environment is one of, as mentioned, is one of those environments which are a pure place to socialize. Not saying that you won't pick up bad things from other peers, but it is a healthy environment in which we can socialize with others and learn social skills. And our parents are are people that we can learn social skills from. And socializing with our parents, in fact, homeschoolers are people who actually have better relationships with their parents as compared to children who go to school. Because they spend more time with their parents, they are able to build a better relationship with their parents. And once they go out there, they are able to interact not only with their peers, but with people of different ages, and they're able to engage in matters. And I think that is one of the advantages of being homeschooled, is that you develop this social skills in an environment that is healthy.
Wow, great. Final question. As we close, because of time, let me close with Elder Moko. Here is someone saying, I have a child, but I want to know at what age is this child ready to go to homeschooling?
Thank you, Pastor, for the question and for the opportunity once more. When we read from Spirit of Prophecy, I mean, as a church, we are blessed with inspiration that God has given us freely. We learn from the SOP that the child start to learn either bad or good behaviors from their mother when they are still in their mother's womb. So learning starts from, you know, prenatal stage. The learning is taking place. When the child is born, learning continues. We teach them how to walk, how to talk, how to memorize verses, and it goes on and on. And you know, SOP also counsels us that a child, the mother should be the only teacher of a child until the age of 9, meaning the formal education could only be considered from age 7 to 9. We know that girls learn faster than boys. However, I think, Pastor, maybe in closing for answering that question, I think if there's a best thing, the favor that we can do our children, even if you don't buy them gadgets and all these other things, let's teach them to take care of take responsibility of whatever the environment. Learn to wash dishes, learn to clean themselves, learn to clean the bathroom, learn to, if you can teach our kids to work, we have really prepared them for life. You know, even if we may not afford to take them to university, but if you have taught them to use their hands, not to depend on nanny to clean for them, you know, work is a blessing. And actually it's a command. God says, 6 days shall thou labor. So work is a blessing. We have to work. So let's teach our children to work when they're still small. When they're still young, then they get accustomed to it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. That's enlightening, because we generally think that or behave as if there is no learning, like before you are 6 years or 7 years old. It's actually getting late by then, if you have not installed the right principles of life. You know, some people don't realize that actually we are in the age of antisocial beings now. If you sit around people and you pull your phone and you work on your smartphone whilst we are talking, that's antisocial behavior. What are you telling people? You know, that person needs to go to homeschooling, Fundis. You know, that person must go to homeschooling to know how to be social. Thank you very much. I have been enriched, and this is quite encouraging, and for our viewers. And thank you for sharing your experience and being able to show us that this is still doable in 2020. Because sometimes we thought that homeschooling was the thing of the past, where there were fewer schools, you know, because the schools were few, and we thought we just started homeschooling because of shortage of schools. But we have learned today that this is God's program, Mamoko, right from the Garden of Eden. We have learned today that God had this plan in mind. I want to imagine what life would have been if all of us were homeschooled right at that age. All of us, all our parents had this mind that right in the womb, I must still try to teach this child. You know, I believe that crime will not be what it is today. But I want to thank you for making such a significant difference, not only to your children, but not only to the church, but to society, because they go out there and be of positive impact, you know. So I want to thank the Lord for the work that we are doing and the encouragement, the wisdom that we have given us. And I challenge all of our viewers today to think about homeschooling and get into this God calling to look after our children. And I know that when we do our part and we leave the rest with the Lord, really one day when Jesus comes, when he asks us, where are the children that I gave you? We will be able to show them him, that here are they. So thank you very much. May the Lord bless you. And to our viewers, please stay tuned. The TOC Department of Education will announce some dates very soon where we will have the whole day to discuss the practical things about homeschooling. What is it that you can do to start, and who do you need to consult with? So this becomes our support base. So don't fear anything. As Mama Taba told us, there is no reason to fear. God will give you the wisdom and the strength, and the rest of us are here to make sure to support you, to make sure that you succeed in this course of homeschooling. Thank you very much. May the Lord bless you. So let me ask Fano to close for us in prayer.
Let's pray. Our kind and Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for being with us throughout the whole day. As we'll be closing this program, may you please be with us, and may you please also be with us as we'll be welcoming the Sabbath in a few short hours, Lord. Thank you for everything, and thank you for loving us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.